Welcome to Choosing to Live Now. My name is Tanisha, and today we'll be exploring the conversation of how to overcome loss in 2022. Now you might be asking yourself when you read the title and when you watch our introductory video about the purpose of this channel, why in the world will we be talking about loss when we're talking about living our best life now? However, at the time that this video is being recorded, our world has experienced a 24-month global health crisis that has been so devastating that loss has been one of the common denominators that we have seen in the news, we have seen and we've heard about in our communities. And personally, I have experienced loss in a very significant way. And I thought it would be fitting that we explore that topic today. I'd like to take a few moments and share a little bit of self-disclosure. 2021 was one of the most difficult years that I've ever experienced. Between myself and my husband, we lost 14 family members. Yep, you heard that correctly. 14 family members. And I want to be clear that we're not strangers to loss, right? In our lives, we might have lost 14 people total, but never in our life have we lost 14 people in 1 year. And so when the initial loss happened at the beginning of the year, I personally am a person that is a person of faith, and I believe strongly in prayer and trusting God and trying to be positive and believing that God wouldn't put more on me than I'm able to bear. You know, all of the cliche things that you might hear in church or in a religious community, or whatever your affiliation may be. But after about the third loss, because they were so close together, I started losing my ability to pray, losing my ability to see things through a positive lens. And it became so severe that there was one point within 2021 where my family and I had lost 4 people right around 2 or 3 months apart. And it was almost as if we were going to funeral after funeral after funeral. And it became so heavy on my mind that I almost felt like I was mute. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I did not want to go anywhere. I would lay around the house in my pajamas. I would shower. I would do some of my domestic responsibilities, but I really was not myself. And I didn't really understand it because for my family, as I'm sure many families around the world have decided to do, my family decided since this global crisis began that we were going to be a quarantine family and live a quarantine lifestyle. So regardless to us whether or not we had the vaccine and whether or not we wore a mask, we really just lived our life very, very quiet and closed off to protect ourselves. And I know that many of you out there can relate to what that might look like. So initially, my isolation did not seem abnormal to me because we'd been doing that for so long. However, this isolation became a challenge where my blood pressure began to be elevated. I remember there was a moment where I was in the bed off and on because my blood pressure was extremely high over a period of 2 weeks. And in our family, we've decided since the global crisis began, that our family would just keep our children home. So our children go to school, but they manage their school doing a virtual platform. And so we act as, teacher coaches to our children, which again, many of you, I'm sure, can relate if you have children or siblings or you experienced anything last year. And our idea for that is because we noticed that, the numbers of ailment or sickness was not decreasing at a significant level, and we don't really have this handle on this global health crisis. We wanted to keep our children in a stable environment, but that means that when you keep your children home, that you are their learning coach. You might not be teaching the lessons, but you are cultivating them in a way that the teacher would do in person. And you know what? I didn't have any energy for that, not at all. It got so bad that I began to be productive in unproductive in every area of my life. And I think the thing that really stands out to me, more disclosure, is the fact that I am actually a training pediatric psychologist. I am a certified school psychologist. I am a trained mental health therapist. And so from this world that I am from, I am fully aware of what depression is, how to assess it in other people. I know what anxiety looks like. I know how to support other individuals, give the research findings about trauma and loss and grief, and really walk through that journey with other people, right? But when it happened to me, none of those things matter. They didn't matter, and I didn't care. I just wanted to be in a place of escape. I escaped for so long that I began to have negative health consequences because of it. And what made me come out of it is I finally mustered up the strength to start journaling, where I could not speak my prayer, because as I stated earlier, that's something that's important to me. I started writing them. And when I began to write them, what I realized was I was trying to avoid the reality that I had experienced loss. And I did not give myself the courtesy of acknowledging the loss so that I could begin the grieving process. And as I began to write more and more in my journal, I began to start to get a little of my vitality back. And I began to consult with some of the people in my close circle, and they began to give me some encouragement around them having similar feelings and moments. And then I was slowly able to get back into prayer and slowly able to do the things that I usually do to revitalize my spirit and strengthen my mind. And when I came out of those experiences, it started to really get me to thinking about how loss is so often looked at from my family's experience, right? Where we actually had deaths to occur in our family. But that is not the only type of loss that exists. There are so many other type of loss that exist, and that you may have heard about from celebrities this past year, that you might have heard about in the news, that you might have seen in front of you, that often do not get the same airtime as the grief or the loss that comes from losing a loved one. So let me list a couple of those types of loss that exist. You have divorce, which is a major loss of life. And while I've not experienced that in my personal life, I have, however, grown up in a family where my parents were divorced. So I was the child of a divorced family. And I know what that loss feels like from the extent of being the child and watching all of the different challenges and the changes that my family went through. But in addition to that type of loss, divorce, there is also bankruptcy. There is foreclosure. There is the loss of a business opportunity. There is the loss of friendships. There is the loss of other types of relationships, business relationships. There is the loss of financial stability, which so many people have experienced and are still experiencing to this day as this recording is going forward. Now, does it happen in any other period of time? Absolutely. But today it is such a striking reality because it is so many people going through it at one time, and it is happening on a global level in a way that we can track these experiences so succinctly to one another. And I don't remember in any time in my lifetime that this has been the case. And when I think about what I personally went through, and then all of this psychological training that I've received, it made me really realize how much we all truly need each other and to really deal with loss in a helpful way. Now you might ask yourself, how does managing loss help you to live your best life now? And I think that if that is something that is on your mind, that is a great question, because I'd love to address that for you. So one of the reasons why addressing loss is important, and we can take this from the business world, is because it is very difficult for us to set a forecast for the future if we don't assess those things that we have lost in the past. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. It is difficult for us to set in the business world. We have learned it is difficult for us to set forecasts for the future if we do not assess our losses. Now, in this season of global loss, what you will find on social media platforms is so many short, I would almost call them sound bites, video clips of people's lives that show their great moments. And we see these reels of people on vacation, people winning, people doing a fantastic job. And for many of us, it definitely gives us a great space of escape. But for some of us, it really highlights how difficult our own experiences have been. And it causes the mental health challenge of anxiety to creep up on us over and over again, because we start doubting ourselves and questioning whether or not we are good enough, whether or not we are working hard enough, whether or not we have done what we can do to be where we need to be. And while these images that start off being extremely supportive end up or a distraction from our life, they begin to make us feel bad about who we are and where we are. Yeah, that's what happens. And so when you don't manage your losses and you live in this place of escape, what happens to you over time is that your mind is clogged. And not to be too clinically focused in this conversation, because I really want it to be human and personal, but I want to share that in order for us to have optimal ability to function in life, that we have cognitive flexibility. That means to take information that we have stored in our working memory and to regurgitate it at a time when we need it, or to be able to take something we've learned in the past and connect it to something that we have been introduced with new in order to create a better understanding. We're not able to do that if our mind is clogged with things that we have not addressed. So not dealing with our losses, not managing them in a healthy way, not even acknowledging them, really is setting us up for pathology, which is just a big fancy word for sickness, for disease. And how this occurs is you don't deal with what you've lost. You keep focusing on what you've gained over and over and over and over again. And you've never really properly grieved those things that you lost in a proper way. So you move forward, not even dealing in a healthy manner with the things that have not went well. So that when you get to a place where, and it's usually at the epoch of your career, which is the height of your success, the height of a moment when you need to be your best self, that you are no longer able to remain, or pieces of your brokenness show up in a very unproductive way that could cause you to have a strain on the success that you're attempting to build for yourself. So as we go into 2022, as we begin the year, this is January, the year that everyone wants to do a New Year's resolution. And I know that there's so much conversation, especially in the fitness community, where you'll hear people say, well, if you're really serious about losing weight, you're going to start it right now. You're not going to wait. Why are you going to wait until the beginning of the year? And then there's other people like, oh, the new year is a fresh start, a new me, a new opportunity. Listen, whatever that may be, and whatever your views are on the matter is fine. But before you can set any type of goal, whether it's at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, the reality is you have to manage your losses in a healthy way. So I'm going to give you 2 strategies today that I want you to work on this week to help you to manage your losses. So strategy number 1 is going to be acknowledging them. I know, right? Wow, mind blown. No big deal. Like, really? Thank you, Tanisha. That was so bright. But no, really. Listen to what I'm saying to you. You have to acknowledge your losses. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be really challenging to do that. Because if you think about all the things that you lost, what's going to happen the moment that you think about it? You're going to feel. And the only way that you can properly heal is to feel. So the first thing is acknowledging the losses. Now, ways for which you can acknowledge those losses is 1, journal them. If you don't have a journal, write them on a Post-it, piece of paper. Write them on a list in your phone. Write them down one at a time. List them. And you don't have to do it all in one day. We can do this in stages. There are 365 days of this year. So we're going to start with writing them down in some way, jotting them down. And then, as you feel safe enough, go and really look at them and really reflect. You can do this in writing. You can do this in any creative way that you want, drawing on this loss and what it means to you, and how this loss impacts you and how it makes you feel. And then here's the next thing. While you're acknowledging this loss, and this is still number 1, allow yourself to feel it. I know, it's a big one, but feeling it, I mean really feeling and sit with the fact that it's lost. And when you're sitting with it, what you're actually just doing is you're acknowledging what was and what is now that this loss has occurred. You're acknowledging how you feel. You're acknowledging if you had a part to play in it. Yeah. So that then leads us to the second strategy for today, and that would be give yourself permission after you feel it to grieve it. Yeah. So grieving is one of those processes, and that we don't talk enough about, because we always talk about grieving as it pertains to the loss of a human life. But there are more things to grieve than that. There's this really special human in my life that I really, really adore. And she told me once, when I was really discouraged in my doctoral program, about the relationships that I did not make. And she said, it's okay, Tanisha, if you grieve it. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, sit with it and feel all the emotions and go through the process of grieving. Because if you grieve it properly, you can heal. Mind blown. Now, when it comes to grief, there are so many layers to the grieving process. We won't touch on that today. That'll actually be our next conversation. We will talk about grief in a more detailed way. But at a very base level, our two strategies are allow yourself to acknowledge. With an acknowledgement, you're going to list them. You're going to allow yourself to feel. And when you can feel those emotions, you open yourself for the opportunity to grieve the journey. When you do this, you're going to unlock all of the stress, all of the anxiety, all of the pain that you've been holding on to. And when you unlock all of those things, you release yourself of baggage that has caused you to be weighted down and not to be productive in your life. And as you go through this process, I want to encourage you to be kind to yourself. Because when you list your losses, one of our first things as humans that we want to do is we want to blame ourselves and treat ourselves badly and talk down to ourselves and tell ourselves how much we suck and how we're no good and how we're never going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And that's not true. You can be a successful whatever it is that you aim to be, and also at the same time embrace loss. I know, mind blown. But in the business world, they've done it every single day. You can be successful overall in your life, but still acknowledge that there are areas of loss. Yeah. And by doing that, it causes you to be healthy. You're not living in a space of delusion in your mind about your experiences. You're not creating narratives that don't exist about your experiences. You're not being put in a position where you could allow yourself or anyone to mishandle you because you have been honest with yourself first. And you owe it to you to go through this journey of acknowledging your loss and grieving so that you can be your best you for you. If you are an individual out there who is a parent, who is a student, who is a daughter, a sister, a brother, a cousin, who is a CEO of a company, it does not matter about all of those individuals that you are responsible and accountable to or for when it comes to dealing with loss and grief. This journey is for you to be your best self. Why? Because you deserve it. You deserve to be your best self for you because you were put on this earth for a purpose. This is my belief. There is a purpose for which you were born. That is why you are living. That is why you are here. That is why you are still able to function. And loss is not the end of it all. Because the fact that it is 2022 and you are still making efforts to strive to be a better person, to seek places and platforms like this one to find resources to be better, indicates that you, my friend, are resilient. And resilience, it is such a powerful tool, a powerful strength of life, because resilience is the key that unlocks the damage that trauma can cause. And we'll talk a little bit more about trauma in our next meeting, in our next conversation, I will call it. We will talk a little bit more about trauma, because trauma and grief go hand in hand, because grief is a type of trauma. But today, here's my strategies for you. What are they again? Let's say them together. 1, acknowledge your losses. And within that acknowledgement, process them. Allow yourself to feel. It's important. 2, give yourself permission to grieve. Grieve the loss. Grieve what was. Process it. Feel all the emotions that are required. If you can successfully do this, you have freed your mental space. You have freed your heart to be able to receive all of the new blessings and opportunities that are available for you in 2022. Listen, I want to thank you so much for logging in today. I want to thank you for joining the conversation. And now, I'm going to sign off with these words. You matter. You're worthy of the best. You were created for a purpose. Don't give up on you. I believe in you. That is why I'm here. I believe in you. We are a community. We're going to do this together. Until next time. Blessings. Thank you so much for logging on today, Choosing to Live community. If you like what you heard today, if you like the strategies about managing loss and you want to hear more, please subscribe. If you feel like the information that we've shared today is something that can help someone that you know, someone that you care about, someone that you love, please like, comment, and share. And please drop a comment down in the comment section if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about in the next couple weeks. We want to make sure that the content on this channel is relevant for you and what you're going through. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Blessings to you today.